Well, good evening, or late afternoon, I guess, if you're on the West Coast. I want to welcome all our voting members, as well as those that may be on the Facebook live stream, to Equestrian Canada's 2023 Annual General Meeting. I will call the meeting, the 2023 Annual General Meeting to order at, just let me do the conversion, 7:02 Eastern Time. The meeting has been called to order. I will pass off to Melanie, who will get us started with our land acknowledgement.
Thank you, Lisa. Good evening. Equestrian Canada respectfully acknowledges that we are located on the unceded, unsurrendered territory of the Anishinaabe Algonquin Nation, whose presence and stewardship of the Kitchissippi and its tributaries dates back to time immemorial and will continue in perpetuity. We honor their long history of welcoming many nations to this territory, and we acknowledge our shared responsibilities to ensure health and well-being for all creation for generations to come. Further, we respect and affirm the inherent and treaty rights of all Indigenous peoples in Canada. Our acknowledgement of the Algonquin Anishinaabe territory recognizes the oppressive history and current experience of colonization, and is a reflection of our commitment to decolonize and to recognize and honor the pursuits of Indigenous nations and peoples' self-determination and sovereignty. I'm also going to now move into roll call alphabetically by category. I'll just ask that each member present this evening, please take yourself off of mute and respond yes to indicate your attendance in this evening's meeting. If I will do my very best to properly pronounce your name. If I do make a mistake, please correct me when you come off of mute. So category A, equestrian sport disciplines, Brenda Miner. Okay, I'm guessing that's no. Wendy Christoph?
Yes.
Thank you. Patricia Fruin-Lord? Pat's not here.
Yes, Pat's here. I saw her. Hold on. Oh, she must have dropped off the call.
Okay.
She's on mute. She's on mute.
Oh, I see her.
Pat's there.
Pat's waving. Yep, she's here.
Okay, Sue Full? Susan Carroll?
Yes.
Charlene Kostecki? Desia Miller?
Here.
Karen Sparks? Martha Warts?
Yes.
Thank you. Category B, PTSOs, Adrian Smith?
Here.
Jess Ansey?
Here.
Sandy Bell?
Here.
Robert Fournier? Danielle Blank?
Here.
Cindy Klassen? Cindy Klassen? Deborah Smith?
Here.
Karen Swanchy?
Yes.
Jerry Sweet? Okay, category C, National Equine Affiliates. Gilles Séguin?
Oui, bonsoir.
Bonsoir. Peter Berenger?
Yes.
Ashley Cook Fletcher? Mary Cork?
Yes.
Dan Gall?
Present, thank you.
Nancy Kavanagh? Charlotte Nagy?
Here.
Faith Robillard? She was on before as the iPhone login. Faith, are you here? George Von Platten?
Here.
Thank you. Current Board of Directors, Lisa Robertson, yes. Chris Lowe,
Yes.
Charles Q,
Yes.
Melanie Biron,
Yes.
Wayne Burwash, John Gallinger,
Present.
thank you. Kelly Gravel,
Yes.
Jennifer Hodgson, Rob Mitchell,
Yes.
thank you. Our incoming Board of Directors, Audrey Julie Dallaire,
Yes.
Gilles Levasseur,
Hello, yes.
thank you. Also present this evening, Kirsten Giles,
Here.
Gord Peterson,
Here.
Maude Boulanger-Bouchard,
Yes.
Olivier Lepage, EC staff, Meg Kruger is present, Danielle Bonus,
Here.
Marilyn Coram,
Here.
myself, Jerry Van Blockland,
Present.
thank you, James Hood,
Present.
and Board Recording Secretary Carla Robin.
Present.
Okay, that's everything. Thank you, everyone.
Just want to say, Melanie, I think when you went through category C, Ashley Cook Fletcher, I see her here, but I did not hear her say present, and also Wayne Burwash is present.
Okay, Carla, did you get those last two?
Excellent.
Yeah.
So
Okay,
you got those? Okay. Then
thank
I will,
you.
thanks, Melanie. I will confirm quorum at, with 18 voting members present, from my count. So we, absolutely meet quorum for this meeting. As we started last year's AGM, I want to continue with the tradition of sharing our responsible reporting update with the Assembly on statistical participation. Director election this year in the 2023 director election, we had 27 voting members participate in the director's vote. So we had 100% participation. Thank you so much. That is critical in shaping our board and our future. Voting member attendance at the 2022 AGM, we had 18 voting members in attendance. There were 4 last year from category A, 9 from category B, 5 from category C. So approximately, or exactly actually, a third missing. The 20, and just for perspective, the 2021 AGM, there were 23 voting members present. In attendance, 8 from category A, 9 category B, and 3 from category C. So we'll continue to update the membership about this as part of our responsible reporting for future AGMs. First item of, I guess, formal business will be for us to approve the agenda. You would have all received the agenda on August 29th, 2023. So I would like to ask for a mover and a seconder from the voting members to approve the agenda for the 2023 Equestrian Canada AGM as circulated on August 29th.
George Van Platten will approve.
Thank you. Do we have a seconder?
Peter Behringer.
Thank you, Peter. Any comments or questions? Hearing none, I will call to vote to approve the agenda as presented. Anybody not in favor, please make your presence known. Hearing no one opposed, the agenda is passed. Thank you. Approval, next order of business, we will move to approve the minutes from the 2022 AGM. They were also circulated on August 29th. We have not received any requests for corrections in advance of today's meeting. But first, we will ask for a mover and a seconder. And if there's any comments or questions or corrections, we can deal with that once it's on the table. So a mover to approve the minutes of the 2022 AGM.
George Van Platten.
Thank you.
I'll second that, then Jill.
Jill, thank you. Seconder. All right. Any comments, corrections before I call it to vote? All right, hearing none, I would ask the voting members to vote on the approval of last year's 2022 minutes from the AGM. Anyone opposed, please make yourself known. All right, hearing none, those were unanimously approved as well. Thank you so much. I think that's all for the motions now. So I am going to move in on my rookie season opening remarks for the AGM, as this was my first year in the president's seat. And I will say that it was my great pleasure, actually, to sit as the president of this board. And it allowed me to have the privilege to meet many of the voting members, several in person, as well as several on Zoom calls, as we connected and collaborated on the governance renewal project, which will be discussed later on and is itself a motion. My takeaway from these meetings and meeting several of these folks, as well as our board, is that there's a lot of great passion here in this organization. There's a lot of expertise. And there's a lot of historical perspective that has helped me better understand the challenges, as well as the opportunities that lie ahead for Equestrian Canada. I'm extremely eager to continue to listen and learn so that the leadership of Equestrian Canada, the board, and we can actually help shape a brighter and more sustainable future for the Canadian equestrian community. I think Melanie has prepared a video that will speak to this in more depth.
Our vision is to foster a love of horses and sport for life. Our mission is to unite the Canadian equestrian community in the pursuit of excellence while inspiring and serving people and their horses. Coming together as a nation of horse lovers and sport lovers in a collaborative way that we can find our common assets and common challenges and turn them into opportunities. That is the future of equestrianism in Canada. We need a North Star in order to bring our community together and for them to understand where we're headed. We need to be collaborative with this community. We need to understand their needs and drive value for them. Imagine 2030 is our North Star. Equestrian Canada is a leading, trusted, collaborative, and well-funded national sport organization that provides quality products and services to meet the needs of a strong, inclusive network of horse enthusiasts, recreational and competitive athletes, horse owners, competition organizers, and industry partners.
Imagine 2030 is where we aspire to go. Strategy 2025 is the first step on the staircase that we're climbing to achieve that end goal. Strategy 2025 is building for a better future, and it has 3 key pillars: building a strong foundation, investing in the future, and serving our community. Building a strong foundation is the first pillar of Strategy 2025. The premise of this is that we're increasing our success through having the funds that we need to invest in our sport, being nimble and versatile as an organization, and then offering good quality and innovative programs that our participants find value in. Investing in the future is our second pillar. We have limited resources to work with, whether they are human, financial, or time. Investing means prioritizing these areas over others. And serving our community is our final pillar, and it's about improving the service we provide to our members and customers. For all your moments, we're here for you every stride of the way.
I want you to know that through Strategy 2025, the staff have a clear roadmap to stabilizing and creating a solid foundation to build upon. But we are in the foundation building stages. As you heard, our vision, our North Star, is Vision 2030, and where we want to be a leading and trusted, collaborative, well-funded national sport organization that provides quality products and services to meet the needs of a strong, inclusive network of horse enthusiasts, recreational, competitive athletes, industry partners, service providers, fans, and donors. And the entire structure of how our staff and MEG now operates has that vision in mind. I'll be blunt. What I did also learn is that we can't achieve this if we don't unite together. Looking for fault and tearing each other down and putting personal interests ahead of the collective betterment of our sport and our industry is not going to get us there. Sport in Canada, it's my job, it's my life, not just Equestrian Canada, but sport is in crisis at many levels, whether it be funding gaps. On average, there's a 30% funding gap across all NSOs in Canada. You don't have to look very far to on the media around safe sport and safe sport violations. I'm dealing with a public one that just went public today in my other sport life. Lack of diversity and inclusion, especially in equestrianism, is a challenge. And one that I don't think any of us would have predicted, but unprecedented inflation and the cost of doing sport in Canada are all challenges that sport across this country are facing, and Equestrian Canada is no different. We're not immune to this, but I feel united, we can be a leading NSO in this country, and we already are leading in several ways, which I will speak to later on. We have to take a hard look at ourselves. We have to be willing to be honest with each other and honest with ourselves. And the hardest of all, we have to be willing to change. Sport in Canada has to be willing to change. And because we are human, change can be scary and it can be hard. But I'm asking our community, I'm asking our voting members to be open and courageous in the coming months and years. I don't have the historical baggage. I don't have any historical baggage. I came through as an amateur, as a junior. And I think that's why maybe I have a fresh outlook. I'm not sure. Or maybe I'm just naive. But I know that we'll be better together. And we need to do this for the love of the sport and for the love of the horse. I do want to collectively celebrate several of the foundational pieces that have been accomplished and that we're working on that align with the Strategy 2025. We now have a very high-functioning, skills-based board of directors who are focused on the right things: governance, finance, CEO stability. We're no longer leaking into operations of the organization, and that is in part because we now have a stable and highly capable CEO in Meg Kruger. We have a CEO staff and performance management system in place to check in quarterly on employee performance and employee satisfaction, because that is very important for culture as well as productivity, allowing us to proactively address issues in performance or culture and address them prior to them becoming large issues. As I mentioned, through collaborative work with NSOs across the country, there seems to be a consistent 30% gap in funding that the NSOs are all challenged with in this country. EC is no different, but through the leadership of our Finance and Audit Committee, Meg, and the excellent new addition of Danielle Boness, budgeting, forecasting, and cash flow is being managed in a very professional and effective manner. It's allowing us to make good decisions and to be nimble when we need to during our budget year. Challenges still exist and the gap needs to close. And one way this is being addressed is through a fund development plan. This fall, we will be seeing the addition of a contract position, which will be solely focused in this area. In addition, new revenue generating streams are being examined to open up additional long-term and sustainable income for the organization. And finally, I think of particular significance to today's AGM is the governance renewal project that the board initiated this year. I mentioned the opportunity that I had to meet many, many of you this past year. I met the PTSOs in person in Toronto. It was great fun and it was a great conversation. I've partaken in multiple meetings with the voting members via Zoom, this work was consultative, and I think the updates that we'll be looking at for our bylaws will, well, I know they will bring them in compliance with what has now become mandated by Sport Canada under the Sport Governance Code. The board, in this process, we hired an industry expert in governance, Janice Riven, to review and provide recommendations to the board for changes to bring the organization in compliance. Meg, Janice, myself, we met with the community, as I mentioned, PTSOs, voting members, operations committee, and staff to review the proposed changes, allow for questions, and to have Janice educate us on why these changes are needed and now, in fact, being asked of us by the federal government, and what it will mean to how we will operate. I found these meetings to be super productive, respectful, highly collaborative. I enjoyed all of the conversations that I learned from each of you, so thank you so much. I look forward to continuing the work, to work together in this environment. I like to work in an environment of curiosity, learning, and mutual respect, and that's how I found those meetings went. So again, thank you. I want to wrap up again on the topic of thank yous and gratitude. I want to thank the staff who continue to work hard every day to make EC and our community in Canada stronger and our organization more efficient and surmount the challenges that we do face. I want to thank the volunteers on the operational committee and who represent the equestrian community on our voting members. The time you dedicate to the organization does not go unnoticed, and we appreciate that. Apropos, thank you to the coaches. It is National Coaching Appreciation Week. I do want to thank the coaches for their time, dedication, and commitment. The officials and organizers as well. All the support staff, the equine medication testers, our PTSOs, our industry partners for making this sport what it is. And thank you to the board who spend considerable time working on behalf of the equestrian community to ensure a relevant and sustainable future for our sport, our athletes, and our horses. And lastly, thank you to our two outgoing board members, Rob Mitchell, who has chaired our finance committee for several years, at least since I had joined the board. Thank you, Rob. Your calm, wise, and thoughtful input has been amazing, and the work you did to restructure how our finances and how our budget and forecasting work is very much appreciated. And last but not least, Charles Q, who also will be leaving the board. He has been chair of our governance committee for many, many years. Another very calm, intelligent voice on our board of directors. Not that everyone isn't intelligent, but I can say to myself, calm is not in my nature. So I really appreciate working with those gentlemen. So thank you, Charles, and thank you, Q, for your time. And I wish you all the best. And I really hope we cross paths in the future. All right. I'm not going to go through. Next on the agenda is the president's report. I've touched on a lot of the work that the board has done this year. The in-depth president report with board activities is posted. It was part of the package. So I would refer you to those materials if you haven't already read them. And now I'd like to introduce again Melanie McLaren, our EC's Director of Marketing and Communications.
Thank you, Lisa. And I have the pleasure of introducing the fact that we are grateful to have Stephanie Parker, Senior Program Analyst, Programs Division from Sport Canada. She's joined us as an observing guest this evening on behalf of Sport Canada. Sport Canada has been an important and valued partner of Equestrian Canada for many years. We greatly appreciate their support of our organization and of our sport, and we could not achieve the work we are achieving today and our vision and aspirations for the future without them. Ensuring a safe and welcoming sporting environment is very important to Sport Canada and the federal government, and it is equally as important to us as the NSO for equestrian in Canada. We continue to work closely with the Sport Dispute Resolution Centre of Canada, the SDRCC, and over the past fiscal year, we adopted the Universal Code of Conduct for Maltreatment in Sport, UCCMS, in November 2022, and entered and onboarded our first participants into the jurisdiction of the OSIC, the Office of the Sport Integrity Commissioner, in April 2023. These steps have been a part of ensuring our sport is safe and welcoming for all, and that there is an independent mechanism that will govern maltreatment in sport of all participants. We greatly appreciate the support of Sport Canada in the areas of funding received for equity, diversity, and inclusion, sport development, gender equity, and of course, our core funding that supports our athletes in the pursuit of their high performance goals and dreams. Now I think I'm going to turn it over to Meg.
Oh, I'm sorry. I thought Stephanie was joining.
She's here with us this evening, but she's just here as a guest.
Excellent. Okay, I didn't know if she was speaking, so thank you, Stephanie, for joining. And I will introduce Meg, EC's CEO, to take us into the report from management.
Perfect. Thank you, Lisa. So I have a few updates to share around the activities of management and the team over the last fiscal year. Fiscal year 2023 was a very important year for EC. It was the first year, as Lisa has spoken to, regarding our strategic plans, so Strategy 2025, Building for a Better Future. And it was also the first year during our summer of 2022 that really resembled pre-COVID participation trends. Like the President's report, you'll see that our annual report is full of operational information about who we are, what we do as the NSO for equestrian and the equine sector, and what we achieved in fiscal year 2023. And today I'd like to highlight three specific areas, just spend a few minutes to talk about those three areas. And those areas are the progress that we've made through operational planning. Second one is investing in the grassroots and the equine sector. And the third, celebrating our leaders and athletes. So the first area is about operations planning. So in the fall of 2022, we launched our strategic plan, and launching a strategic plan is a really large undertaking. Not only must the plan be carefully assessed and built, but it also needs to be effectively operationalized. And what that means is that as an organization, in order to achieve the high level goals that we've set, we need to have an effective operational plan that has realistic expectations, it delivers actual results, and then we need to be able to report on our progress regularly and consistently to our community. So following the plan finalization in September of 2022, we spent the next 6 months of the fiscal year creating operational roadmaps and then reviewing those plans with staff, with our PTSO partners and our operational committees for industry, sport, and then our technical experts. And their involvement, their buy-in, and their guidance helped us revise the key results that we're aiming for in the plan. And then from that point, as we progress through the plan, we're producing quarterly management reports that are posted on our website. And those reports track progress against the key results and the objectives within the plan. And then they also speak to areas where we're facing delays or variances. So just to wrap up on this first point, during the the fiscal year of 2023, we spent thorough time consulting with stakeholders and putting our detailed plans in place to ensure that Strategy 2025 is an integral part of our operational day-to-day and that our community has open access to our quarterly progress reports. So the second thing I'm going to speak to today is about grassroots and industry development. The future of our sport rests on the health of our grassroots and our herd. And I'm going to talk about 4 things relating to this section. The first is our relationship with our PTSOs. The second, understanding our sector through data. Third, increasing our awareness of equity, diversity, and inclusion. And then I'll wrap up with working with our operational committees to troubleshoot on sport trends. So the first piece, in 2022, we worked very closely with our PTSO partners to adjust our relationship and focus very much on accountability, transparency, program delivery, and fiscal resources. And in doing that, we changed our fee structures. So we moved away from PTSOs previously paid 10% of their membership revenue to EC, and that had been the norm for 10 years plus. And we moved towards a small flat fee of $2.50 per person per PTSO. And what this change means is that it left significant funding at the PTSO level to be able to invest in provincial programs and grassroots development. And on top of that, we collaboratively launched 3 grants that are designed to provide additional funding to PTSOs in 3 areas. We have a national education fund, which ensures that PTSOs have resources to be able to deliver NCCP coach certification to meet our goal of all coaches licensed and NCCP certified by 2025. The second, we launched a national emergency response fund, and that fund is for PTSOs to support equestrian communities who are facing environmental and biosecurity disasters, which unfortunately are becoming more and more common in our current world. And then the third is the National Sport Development Fund, which is designed to provide granting to PTSOs for nationwide sport development initiatives. So these grants together make $140,000 available to PTSOs to fund projects and initiatives, and the new fee structure left several $100,000 in PTSO budgets to be able to invest directly into their communities and programs. Second piece I wanted to speak to is understanding our sport and the equine sector through data. Working with sector data has been difficult for our community over recent years because we haven't had an industry study done since the last one, which was done in 2010. And on top of our national trends, we didn't have a data-led understanding of the impacts of COVID-19 and what it had left on our sport and our sector. And thanks to Sport Canada recovery funding, last year we were able to engage a third-party consultant, Wilton Consulting, who completed our equine industry study for the first time in 13 years. It was just released last week. And this study will provide us, our organizers, our PTSOs, our international FEI governing body, and the government with information about how critical the equine and equestrian sectors are to Canadians. The third piece in this section is to talk about increasing the work that we're doing to understand the impacts of tradition on our sport and on inclusion and breaking down barriers. In fiscal year 2023, we engaged resources with lived experience to walk with us on our EDI journey. First, with a consultant who did a diversity audit about horses and colonialism, sport and rural development, and racism and ableism in sport. And the board is working with a consultant to do EDI work at the board table. As Lisa mentioned earlier, our governance review, which is a 2-phase governance renewal project, we're going to be able to help to ensure that we address EDI at the governance level and review our membership structure in phase 2 to ensure that we see vibrant and diverse participation in the governance structure of this organization. And lastly, we were able to expand our equestrian themed images so that we can better represent diverse participation in equine activities and in our learning tools, such as our fostering healthy equestrian environment and concussion awareness courses, and all of our communications and marketing. And the last piece in my grassroots and industry sector development work is the progress that we're making with our discipline and industry committees to discuss and analyze trends and develop solutions. So as Lisa alluded to, we may not be able to control things like rising costs or inflation, but we certainly can influence our sport pathway and our industry together. So the work that we've been doing includes launching national rankings, working towards launching national rankings for all of the Olympic and Paralympic disciplines, assessing the competition consolidation trends that we're seeing and are interested in seeing an increase in the number of domestic show organizers, and better connecting the provincial and national sports circuits to support athletes, officials, and coaches. And last but not least, developing our national Canadian Equine ID program. So the last thing I'd like to touch on before I hand it back over to Lisa is about leadership and our athletes. We invest in our leaders as we see them as critical game changers for our future, and they are at the heart of this organization are our athletes. So I'm going to touch on coach certification and high performance. Coach status might have launched in 2018, but last summer was a very important milestone year where licensed coach status was required for all EC Gold and Platinum competitions. And as a result, we saw over 1,500 new coaches obtain their coach status in fiscal year 2023, and 66% of those were holding license status. We held our first in-person coach developer symposium in March of 2023, and that brought 52 people from 10 provinces and 1 territory together for coach education and networking. Our coaches impact every single athlete in Canada, and it's imperative that we continue this important work to have all coaches licensed and NCCP certified by 2025. And at the high performance spectrum, fiscal year 23 was a FEI World Championships year. So we had many athletes representing Canada in many countries and many disciplines. And we celebrate the hard work and dedication of all of our athletes who represented Canada. We know how much time, money, and passion it takes to be an athlete at the top of our sport. I would like to mention our top performances. Vaulter Averill Saunders finished in 11th place, show jumper Tiffany Foster in 12th, pair dressage athlete Roberta Sheffield in 5th place, and Kelly Hudepels-Bruder with a bronze medal. So congratulations to all of our athletes, their grooms, coaches, and horses, and the teams that support them. And I can't speak about our senior team without also speaking about our next generation. In August of 2022, our Canadian youth athletes shone at the NAYC, it's the North American Youth Championships, capturing 5 medals and several top 8 finishes in both individual and team competitions. And as the fiscal year came to a close, we were honored to welcome Captain Canada Ian Miller as our show jumping technical advisor for Canada's national show jumping team. Ian joins Clive Milkins, our TA for pair dressage, and Rebecca Howard, our TA for eventing, although she will be joining it. She has joined now, but it's technically in fiscal year 2024. So we thank our athletes, our high performance staff and committees, and our TAs for the hard work they do for Canada on the global stage. And as I wrap up, I know Lisa thanked many people and many of those who are on the call and those who are not, but I just wanted to add a few to the list of thanks. Of course, I need to thank staff and volunteers on our committees who work together every day, constantly, and the work that we do together is helping to push this organization forward into the future. Our board of directors, our voting members, the provinces, disciplines, and breeds and industry affiliates, our organizers, coaches, and officials, our sponsors, in particular Henry Equestrian, powered by NFP, NTRA, Equine Discounts, Hesteband, and Mad Barn, our donors who invest in our athletes and into the future of our sport, and our funding partners, Sport Canada, Own the Podium, Canadian Olympic and Paralympic Committees, and Agriculture and Agri-Foods Canada. And at the heart of this entire organization are our athletes and our horses, who are committed to horses in sport for life and following their pursuits from pony to podium, always with the wellness and well-being of our humans and our horses at the heart of who we are and what we do. You are all the reason that we're here and that we build our plans and deliver on our results. We do this for you and for a better future. That's everything, Lisa. Back over to you.
Thanks, Meg. Well spoken. Melanie, I think I'm passing back to you now to introduce our guest.
Yes, thank you so much, Lisa. Please join me in welcoming our guest speaker, Maude Boulanger-Bouchard, to our meeting this evening. Maude, who hails from Laval, Quebec, is from a family of horsewomen and men and has been living and working with horses basically since she could walk. She's a competitive athlete as well as a certified high-performance coach, trainer, and learning facilitator. Alongside her family, she manages the Centre Épique Animaux, a certified equequality boarding stable and equestrian center in Quebec. We have asked her here today to share some of her story and her experiences with us, to provide some insight into the life and realities of active members of our community, so that we might better understand how our work impacts equestrians in Canada. Bienvenue, Maude.
Bonjour. Mon nom est Maude Boulanger-Bouchard.
Hello, my name is Maude Boulanger-Bouchard.
I'm a horse rider and athlete, coach, developer, businesswoman, horse dealer and volunteer. I'm based in Mirabel, which is the north of Montreal. And I come from a French family of horse riders. After I graduated from high school, I decided to go to an English university. Well, for me, I'm very much French. I wasn't even listening to English TV, so that was quite a harsh decision in my career. Pardon my French.
In English. My parents met in a stable a number of years ago. He was from the reining world and she was riding hunters. My sister and I started showing in the hunters at a young age on the regional circuits. Growing up, I had to contribute to my show budget and work to afford going to the bigger shows. I started grooming full-time at the age of 13 to help pay for my provincial and national shows. During my teen years, my parents created a business with my coach and operated a lesson program in the stables they were renting. Because of that, I went on to obtain my first teaching certification at 15 years old with a special permission to challenge the instructor exam. The minimum age required was to 16 years old. Teaching, grooming, clipping horses, paid for my showing expenses throughout my adolescence. In 2004, my family purchased a property and founded Centre Pequenimo. Little by little, we built the facility and developed the business. I went on to become a certified competition coach in 2009 and a competition coach specialist in 2013. That year, I had to take part of the examination in French in Quebec and part of it in English in Ontario. The program was so new to EC that it wasn't fully available in one province only. Those are the level managed by provinces, but it's a program overseen by Equestrian Canada. 12 years ago, I purchased my first horse from Europe via video. He was the first horse I bought that was not started or developed by my family. You see, until then, we bought young horses my father would start, and then I would turn into competitive hunters and eventually sell. I sold 3 to afford that one horse. That's how I got here today, choosing horses, making them, developing them, selling them. That's the reality of many professional riders. I've done this over 250 times since 2004. Each time I sell a horse, I build a new project in the barn. A few years ago, I figured if I wanted to specialize, I needed to get to know the sport, the hunter discipline in and out. I reached out to great hunter trainers and continued my learning along solidifying my riding career. As an athlete, I aspired to think big and think large. As a coach, I like to encourage my students to do the same. But the reality of my geographical location means that if I want to ride at the best shows, we have to travel on average 4 to 20 hours a week to the best venues. Usually I'm driving the trailer myself, but sometimes it's my father and sometimes it's my husband. My sister is our stable head groom, and our entire program and system is around the discipline of hunters. I show horses I own, I show horses client own, I show horses investors own. In the beginning of the year, I select the shows and plan the best strategy for the horses' development, for my career, for the sales, for the client's experience, or for everyone's qualification goals. Sometimes I get to keep one special horse for a few years to reach some of my goals, but mostly I get to keep them for a maximum of 2 years. For me, that rotation has been my best business strategy. My riding reality is built around keeping everything on a planned budget. Sometimes my best ones sell before I get to ride in the bigger classes, when they're just starting to be really competitive. It's the tough part of many professional riders. More great hunter riders would probably likely emerge if we had programs supporting the growing cost of showing, the challenge of traveling, or simply access to good clinicians. Maybe one day, Canada would have riders in the World Hunter Rider Championships. COVID was hard for all of us, but COVID gave us one gift: time. Time home, time away from shows and traveling, a pause. A time I used to evaluate the resources my national federation had to offer. In 2020, I was able to join the new high performance coaching certification program Equestrian Canada put together. I had to submit an application, including past accomplishments from my student throughout the years, high performance results, by horses I developed, and my own riding results. I enrolled in many classes, online classes required to become an HP1 candidate, and completed the necessary certification with the National Coaching Association. My HP1 journey forced me to put on paper what we do: horses health management, training and showing organization, the layout of our team, their roles, assessed my communication and coaching style, evaluate my experience, describe my business management methods, and more. It was like going back to university, really. The new HP1 program is very comprehensive and complete. It promotes better and more precise sport program, aims at leveling us up with other sports. In 2021, a first cohort of coaches was created by EC. We joined up sometimes weekly, sometimes bi-weekly for classes. We had to submit documents, lesson videos, get evaluated at the shows, and much more. Zoom became my best friend, something I had never thought would be part of my days, but a truly great tool. I joined our group at the end of a teaching day or a riding day, or often at the end of a showing day. It was both challenging and educational. EC's program will make us better coaches, made me analyze things I do, build statistics and use academics in my everyday. I became the first HP1 hunter. Actually, unfortunately, I'm still the only one, but hopefully more will emerge soon. At the end of my certification journey, I was recruited by my EC evaluator to become a learning facilitator. I've always been a solution-oriented teacher, and this was going to be handy in helping and assisting the development of the next high-performance coaches. I love this new role I learned the past 2 years with EC. It's kind of a window on the diversity of our sport, on the different perspective, coaching and training program, but it's also about the structure of our sport, the sport we share, its rule, its principles. As a learning facilitator and evaluator, I get to see other coaches and understand and perfect their own, I get to see them perfect their own teaching style. I get to evaluate other disciplines, see how others do it and how they organize their system. I believe in the end, through this new cohort system, we all as individual and as a community will benefit from each other's knowledge. In our stables, we manage 20 to 25 horses. Centre Pic Animaux is a group success. It's family operated. It's a boutique business specialized in sourcing, developing, and showing hunters, along teaching and training passionate riders. farriers, groom, veterinarians, riders, owner, coaches, we all work as one team. All the horses at our facility show on the Eastern Canadian Gold Circuit, so national and international hunter jumper shows. We show in Canada as well as in the United States, on average 9 months a year. Our program oversees the horse's health and care, horse and riders training and showing program, as well as traveling organization and more. We handle show entries, show setup, and all the care during the shows as well. Our team, along with grooms, veterinarians, farrier, plan the best individual strategy for each horse to promote a long and fruitful career. Our group is made of riders of all types, level, and ages. We even have one para-athlete who trains and compete with the team. An individual approach really allows us to personalize goals and training technique. The beauty of this sport, that though it's an individual sport, all types of athletes come together to form a team and support each other. As a stable owner and operator, but also as an athlete myself, sometimes it feels like a battle between industry and sport. Thankfully, with the support of my family, great staff, we managed to keep a very fine balance between the roles, allowing me to ride and show along the business and the coaching. My mother manages all the paperwork, thank God, while my father and husband care for the facility and our hay production. Oh yeah, we produce 60% of our annual hay consumption. As equine business owners see the cost of operation increase every year, some struggle with management. The biggest financial pressure come from 3 main expenses: hay, shavings, and staffing. I wish program and educational resources could be offered by our governing bodies to help passionate horse lover turned entrepreneurs keep their riding school open and horse riding accessible at large. Our sport need them to initiate future top equestrian to riding. As keeping busy feels like a familiar aspect of all horse lover, I, along several athletes at our stable, believe in being an engaged and involved equestrian. For over a decade now, I've been a Just World International ambassador. Just World is a nonprofit organization who raises money only in the horse world to facilitate healthcare, education, and nutrition for over 10,000 children. We at ANIMO have organized several fundraisers throughout the years, such as horseless horse shows, penny drive, back number swaps, and more during EC's sanctioned events. More than just raising awareness, these initiatives we create help the Guatemala cause that we've chosen. In 2020, I put together the new Quebec Young Hunter Development Series. The goal was to help promote and facilitate the development of young horses towards the discipline of hunters in Quebec, giving 3 to 5-year-old horses opportunity to gain value and experience. I'd hope that in time, it would elevate my chosen discipline in my province. Great prize money, many gifts, a complete organizational support is presented to the hosting shows by the series committee. Already, this has obtained more than 3 more spots to our Quebec 3-year-old horses in the Governor General and Lieutenant Governor Cups at the Royal Horse Show. And hopefully, we'll encourage riders, trainers, and breeders from Quebec to produce more equine athletes for the discipline of hunters. This year, over 15 sponsors and equestrian businesses supported our event. Long term, I hope we as a community can create more initiative supporting the discipline of hunters. Programs like Ontario's Grit or Cheval Quebec Excellence, not just for dressage and jumper riders, but also for hunter riders. Because ask any show organizers, the hunters are the bread and butter of the show jumping events. Therefore, in 2021, our team started a support initiative for the regional level with the ANIMO grant for excellence in hunters. Because of this partnership with our local riding association, the entry fees of 16 riders participating in the hunter divisions at the Quebec Equestrian Games are fully covered by our stables. As the costs of our sport are ramping up, we felt this type of involvement would help promote our chosen discipline, but also provide a leg up to aspiring players of our sport. We believe it starts at the roots. As everyone wants to be an Instagram star and coaches encourage riders to join bigger shows, travel to grander venues, we as an equestrian community seem to forget where we started. The bigger shows now cater to the needs of the beginner levels and contribute to the desertion of regional competitions. We have to wonder, how are we going to build solid foundations without those great roots? As big venues often are offering better exhibitor experience and finer competition conditions, how do we encourage the bronze and silver circuits in our province? Perhaps supporting this initiative, lowering costs, can encourage parents and trainers to start locally and invest in the knowledge of their children. Betting on development on all levels feels like the way to go. I hope to see our federation lean harder on horsemanship and sportsmanship. Promoting knowledge might feel like a simplistic solution to the advancement of our sport, but perhaps one of the right way of progressing. Through rider levels and via coach and facility certification, we can encourage the actors of our industry and sport to do better. Future instructors, coaches, grooms, farriers, veterinarians will be made by the promotion of knowledge. Better know their resources, program, and services. More than just a possible way to advance our sport, this might just be the start of a solution to the lack of trained help and a leg up to the staffing challenges every barn owner currently is facing. Thank you.
Wow, Maude, wow. That was spectacular. First of all, congratulations on getting your HP1. I have several coaches that have worked towards it and have it, and it is no small endeavor. So congratulations on that.
It's like going to university.
It is. And my women's soccer coach just got hers, and we had a big celebration because it literally is like graduating university. So, but beyond that, thank you for giving back to the community. Thank you for being passionate about your discipline. You're obviously giving back in so many ways, and that's, you should be applauded. So thank you, and thank you for joining us.
Thank you.
All right, sorry, I'm just switching my screens up a little bit. There we go. All right. Melanie, and thank you for arranging to have Maude join us today. That was fantastic. Moving on, we'll move on to the next piece of business, and obviously a very important piece of business is the approval of the proposed bylaw changes. Again, those were received in your package, and voting members had obviously seen them several times throughout as part of our consultative process. As I spoke earlier in the meeting, This is a large and very important piece of business the board undertook this year. It's what we refer to as the governance renewal process. Meg mentioned there is a two-phased approach to it. The first phase, which encompasses the bylaws, edited bylaws that are in the package today, is phase 1. It was a compliance exercise. We started it as a best practices exercise to bring our bylaws in line with what Sport Canada was recommending. Sport Canada has subsequently moved their position to away from best practices and are requiring these changes for all NSOs by 2025. So it seems we were leading the way when we started this process a year ago. As I'd mentioned, we worked with Janice Riven. All our voting members will have met her in our consultative meetings. And I will let you know after today, depending on what happens with the vote, our plan is to move into phase 2. This phase will also be highly consultative, a highly consultative process. We will examine our bylaws through the lens of creating a more modern, inclusive, and responsive organization for our entire community. And our plan would be to literally start that process next week, as Janice has mentioned. So I would look at this point to ask, as I mentioned before, in order to have discussion or questions, we need to have the motion on the floor. And the motion is that I would like to a mover and a seconder for the approval of the EC proposed bylaw amendments as circulated on August 29th. You are not voting to approve them. A mover and a seconder is just moving to get them onto the docket for discussion. Can I have a mover and a seconder?
George Van Platen.
Thank you. And a seconder?
Gilles.
Thank you, Gilles. All right. The document, amended bylaws are on the table for discussion or questions. Janice wasn't able to join us this evening. She was planning on it, but unfortunately she can't. So between Meg and I, if there are questions, we will do our very best to answer them in an intelligent way. I'm not seeing any hands or anybody coming off of mute. All right, so I will call the motion to vote on the proposed bylaw amendments as circulated August 29th, 2023. Anyone not in favor, please make yourself known. Hearing none, seeing none, I would, I'm gratefully announcing that the amended bylaws have passed unanimously. Thank you, thank you, thank you, everyone. I am very much looking forward to the next steps of our governance renewal. I know I'm going to be dedicating a lot of my personal time to the consultative process as well. So I look forward to maybe seeing a lot of you guys in person, but definitely consulting with the voting members as well as many other stakeholders within our community as we start phase 2. So thank you, everyone. Okay. All right. We will move on to our next order of business. So I would like to introduce Danielle Bowness, EC's Director of Finance, and Kirsten Giles, our KPMG auditor, to provide an overview of the financial statements and the audit.
Thanks so much, Lisa. I think I'm first up. So I'm going to share my screen for everyone, and I will go through our audit report and a high-level review of the financial statements. And hopefully it's large enough that everyone is able to see. I can always increase the view if needed. So essentially on our first page of the auditor's report, you can see after we performed the annual audit of the financial statements for the organization for the year ended March 31st, 2023, we are issuing a clean and unmodified audit opinion on those financial statements, as is stated in this paragraph here. In our opinion, the accompanying financial statements present fairly in all material respects the financial position of the organization as of March 31st, 2023, and its results of operations, its changes in net assets, and its cash flows for the year that ended in accordance with Canadian accounting standards for not-for-profit organizations. On that same page, you will see the basis for that opinion. So we have three main points here, obviously, that we conducted our audit in accordance with Canadian generally accepted auditing standards. We maintained our independence with the organization throughout the audit and subsequent to the audit, and we believe that the audit evidence we have obtained is sufficient and appropriate to provide a basis for our opinion. Move to the first of four statements that we actually refer to as the face of the statements. So you're looking here at the statement of financial position. This is as at March 31st, 2023. You'll see here the results that we're reviewing today, which is the 2023 in the first column on the left, and the comparative 2022 or last year's results in the column on the right. For our assets, you can see we did have an overall decrease from 4.2 million last year down to 3.1 million this year. While we did have a new investment with the Canadian Olympic Foundation in the year, we did actually draw down on the investments, as you can see, from 2 million to 1.2 million this year. And you'll also see that receivables were outstanding last year of $1 million, this year only coming in at 196,000. So on the opposite side of total assets, we do have what the organization owes. So under total liabilities, our accounts payable has decreased from 900,000 in the prior year to 500,000 this year, and a fairly comparable number of deferred revenue to move forward. The last part of the statement is the net assets. So if you will, an accumulated surplus, again, going from 2.3 million last year down to 1.6 million this year, which we'll see more details of on the next page. So again, liabilities and net assets rounding out to 3.1 million to balance total assets at the top of the page. I'll move to the next statement, which is the statement of operations. And again, we are reviewing now the results for the fiscal year for total revenues and total expenses. The numbers for 2023, you'll see here, as Meg had referred to, we really do have a return to sport. So total revenue has moved from 5.9 million in the prior year to 6.5 million this year. And again, as we can see, really coming from sport license fees and the competition levies and fees, as well as discipline general revenue. Obviously, with an increase in revenue, typically you always have an increase in expense. So we can see going from 6.0 million in 2022 to 6.4 million in the current year. Fairly comparable results for the most part, but of course, as you would expect, a small increase in salaries and benefits, and obviously in the discipline line item. This brings us to our preliminary results, if you will. So we first had an excess of revenue over expenses compared to a deficiency in the prior year. We're now showing what we refer to as below the line, other income and other expense items. These are items that are either one-time or special or non-recurring items that we don't expect to see as a regular part of operations. So for example, the COVID subsidies, we actually received 2 years of COVID subsidies, but those have come to an end as of the close of the year. And you'll see, obviously, to offset the subsidy amount is obviously an expense to spend those funds. So those, the results of these, including the additional high performance activities that took place in the year, bring the organization down to a total deficiency of 729,000 compared to 164,000 in the prior year. The third statement is the statement of changes in net assets, and this will show obviously that deficiency of revenue coming in at the 729,000. So again, our opening balance at 2.3 million in 2023 is being drawn down by that deficiency to end up at 1.6 million in the current year, which again, we feel is still a fairly healthy position for the organization to be in. The last page of the face of the financial statements is the statement of cash flows. So as stated, it really just shows how cash has either been provided to the organization or how it has been used. So for example, a small increase of 266,000 essentially came from being able to collect on those receivables from last year. So that really offset the cash used, if you will, in operations for that deficiency. So ending at just over $1 million for the current year. So I'll pause there. I believe I'll pass it to Danielle for some further information and some details on the operational results. And I will be on deck if there's any questions about the actual audit process.
Danielle, I think you're still on mute if you're speaking.
Of course, I always forget. Sorry, guys. Thanks, Kirsten, and good evening, everybody. I am just going to go into a bit more detail on some of the stuff that Kirsten talked about. So after a few challenging years, we are slowly returning to pre-COVID revenue levels. Just like Kirsten said, we had about approximately $6.4 million in revenue compared to 5.9 in fiscal year 2022. Comparing FY23 revenue to FY22, our sport license revenues increased by about $274,000. I'm rounding up to the nearest thousand. Competition revenues increased by $279,000. Equine medication by about $157,000, and discipline revenues by about $358,000. Revenue did decline in the areas of membership by about $129,000, and in the areas of donations and fundraisings in about $356,000. When I was doing further analysis, I found there was a lot of differences between FY22 and FY23 of what was being put in discipline revenues and what was being put in donation and fundraising. So this year, when we clean this up for FY23, we're making sure that the donations are going into the right buckets, whether they're in general donations and fundraisings, or if there should be in the discipline revenues. Operating expenses, when factoring out the Sport Canada recovery funds received, total just under $6.5 million this year versus $6 million last year, which has resulted in an increase of 6.65% over last year. One of the buckets that did increase quite a bit, the expenditures for salaries was up by about 26.6%, yet it is only 2.3% higher than budget. The main reasons for the budgeted salary increase included new hires to support the return to pre-COVID activity levels, which helped transition from less contractor roles. As you can see in the financials, that the professional and contractor section has gone down by about 55% over last year. And to the annual increase to the federal payroll contributions of CPP and EI, which was a fairly big jump in calendar year 2022, and for the cost of living increases that we're giving in last fiscal year to align better with inflation. Expenditures for the FEI World Championships were lower than budget. Only 2 qualifying dressage athletes were sent versus a full team that was in the budget. However, increased expenditures occurring in the areas of horse shipment, accommodation, meals, etc., is reason for the inflationary pressures and the increase in those areas. Overall, the FY23 fiscal year ended with a small operating surplus of $40,811. EC received a recovery fund from Sport Canada, which totaled $916,915, and this amount supported EC through 70% of cost recovery and 30% of new projects, which was the same as the year before with the recovery fund. As Kirsten did mention, EC withdrew $770,500 from the EC corporate reserve during the fiscal year to support the World Championships in Herning, a decision that was assessed and approved by the budget during the FY23 budget process. The original amount that we expected to use was just over $1 million, but we just by the end of the calendar year 2022, we realized we only needed the $770,000. This amount had to flow through the statement of operations, which is why you see it on the bottom section of the statement, as these are items that don't normally occur in EC's day-to-day operations. And the EC corporate reserve withdrawal was, as I said, board approved, but with a replenishment plan where EC will deposit $150,000 per year over the next 5 years to replenish the funds that was used this past fiscal year. And so that is the end of my presentation.
Excellent. Thank you, Danielle. Are there any questions? I'll ask people to put hands up or. All right. Seeing none. Unless no one, sorry, I'm not seeing the whole screen.
No,
right.
I've checked all screens and there's no comments in the chat either, Lisa.
Great, thank you. So acceptance of the financial statements. I can now state that the voting members have received the 22-23 approved audited financial statements that were sent out August 29th, 2023, and received the auditor's report and the operations finance report today. The audited financial statement approval is a 5-part process. Staff complete the annual financial year end, March 31st, 2023. That was done. The financials are audited by the third party, KPMG. That was done. Audited financials are reviewed and approved by the board's finance committee. That was done. Audited financials are approved by the board of directors. This is a legal requirement that has been completed. Audited financials are the last step. As outlined in the new NFP Act, is that the approved audited financials are presented to the voting members at the AGM and that they are provided with the opportunity to ask questions. So that has now been completed. And just a reminder that that in 2015, this new act does not require approval of financial audited statements by the members. So that's why we've not done so since 2019. So thank you, Danielle, and thank you, Kirsten. You are welcome to head off to your evening's activities. Thank you for joining us.
Thank you so much. It's my pleasure.
Thanks, Kirsten.
Thank you.
All right, the last portion of the financial session of the AGM is to appoint the auditor. So I would like to move a mover and a seconder and make the motion to appoint KPMG again as our auditor for April 1, 2023 through April 31st, 2024 fiscal year. Can I have a mover?
Jill, again.
Thank you, Jill. And can I have a seconder, please?
I will, Charlotte Nagy.
Thank you, Charlotte. All right, I will call any questions or comments. All right, I will call the motion to vote. Anybody opposed to the motion to appoint KPMG as our auditor for our 23-24 fiscal year? All right, hearing none, I will ask that be recorded as a unanimous vote in favor of KPMG being appointed. Thank you. All right, I'm just looking at time, cognizant of time. We are wrapping at 8:30, Meg, just so that I'm managing this properly. Yes, okay. All right, I'm going to open the floor for a little bit because we do have 1 or 2 pieces of business left to do, but I do want to open to a question period. We did send out notice with the meeting for people to formally send in any questions in advance. We did not receive any questions, but I do want to give the opportunity in this moment for a little bit to open the floor to any questions. Melanie, if you can monitor stuff for me, that would be fabulous.
Will do.
All right, seeing none, hearing none. I would like to move on and introduce Kelly Gravel. She is one of our board of directors. She was the board observer on the nominations committee. And I would invite her to share her insights on this year's election process and then introduce our newest board members. Kelly, the floor is yours.
Thank you, Lisa. As Lisa's mentioned, I am a board member. This was my first year on the board and my first time having the privilege of observing the 2023 election process for EC. It was a great process. I think the applicants for the 3 board vacancies brought a variety of really great skills to the table. And the interviews took place over the course of 2 days, and the 6 category reps then brought that information gleaned from those interviews out to the category members. Like I said, the variety and the extent of experience and knowledge and energy was really impressive, and the category members and the reps really impressed me. So it was a really good experience for me for my first time, for sure. Those applications, the applicant information went back to the categories, and I'd like to thank the category reps and the members as well, because I think they just did a really tremendous amount of work, taking this really seriously, making sure that the people, that everybody had a fair representation to the members, and that really the best interests of Equestrian Canada were taken into account. So that's my very, very brief insight about my experience. So we do have three successful applicants. Lisa Robertson, who has been renamed to the board. You are familiar with Lisa, I'm assuming. We have Audrey Julie Dallaire, and as well as Gilles Lavasseur. Actually, if we could have, if AJ perhaps has a little bit of a moment that she can give a little introduction to herself to the audience this evening.
Sure, thank you, Kelly. I'm really happy to be here tonight. And as you all heard, my name is quite complicated to say in English, so you can all call me AJ or Audrey as you wish. I really don't mind. So basically, I've been involved in the equestrian community for the past 30 years. I've been a groom, I've been an amateur rider, and I am now a current owner and breeder of horses in the show jumping in Canada and in France. So I really shift my focus lately on the development of young horses, which is very challenging, but also very interesting. In my professional life, I've been a lawyer for almost 20 years. I'm currently a partner at Fasken in the real estate and infrastructure department. Prior to that, I was the head of the legal department for a real estate developer and construction company for almost 5 years, working very closely with the president, the executives, and my CEO. And I was responsible for risk management, corporate governance, and integrity, and which led me actually to be one of the 4 finalists for the Canadian General Counsel Award last year in the Mid-Market Excellence. And also I had the opportunity to attend Harvard Law School for a leadership and corporate counsel program. And I think this is quite a good experience, to have. So I'm very happy to join, and I hope I can contribute with my experience in the equestrian world as well as in the law world. Thank you.
Thank you so much. I appreciate that. Gilles, perhaps you could have a little intro as well too.
Thank you. My name is Gilles Lavasseur. I'm actually originally from Toronto, more precisely from North York. And so I've been actually involved in the equestrian world for over 30 years as an amateur, rider, and then doing some interesting things and training my kids in learning how to do equestrian, riding. The reason why I joined is because I love the passion of this environment. I'm a university professor today. I've worked 30 years in the government of Canada as responsible for the enforcement of all the health legislation. And then now today I'm in the world of teaching governance and management. So that's why I enjoy this type of world. One of the fun classes that I like teaching at university is called Equine Law. It's something that is so different than from other classes because it's more about, enjoying the sport than just teaching for teaching. So that's why I enjoy this type of world. So it's a pleasure to be with you. It's a pleasure to be, in this world. And what's one of the interesting thing that you hear from the people is their commitment and their passion to what they do. There is this love affair between, the horse and the individuals, the riders. And that's something that is beautiful. It's not mechanical. There's also that emotional perspective. And that's why I enjoy being part of that group. Thank you.
Thank you and welcome, AJ and Gilles. Looking forward to getting to know you all better. All right, and thank you to everyone. I think our the formal part has wrapped up. We've reached the end of the agenda. So I really appreciate everyone, the staff, the board, the voting members, obviously, for joining this evening and contributing to another successful AGM. We have nothing further to discuss this evening, so I wish you all a wonderful week. And I'm going to adjourn the Equestrian Canada 2023 AGM at 8:28 Eastern Time. Thank you, everyone.